both of them are actually doctors. Maybe we can go to the next slide so people can know further what um, they are doing and who they are as a person. I think this is the most interesting part. You might already have seen it in our Instagram post. But yeah, they're both a doctor who are doing social work as well. And they are dialing from London right now. I'm wondering, Kaaya and Kafi, are you here? Like, are you ready to share your...
Hello, Intan.
Hi, Ka.
Yeah,
One.
we are here. Figure out the background thing.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Give
That's
us
okay,
like
Ka.
15 seconds.
Okay, yeah. Maybe I can a little bit about Kai. They are the co-founders of Kind Cities, which is a community concerned with urban planning and what it takes to make cities kind. Not only I love how
Mhm.
they choose the word kind instead of like inclusive or sustainable, but because I think that a kind cities will accommodate all of that, right? And they are doing discussion. They are gathering people from grassroots, from academia, the government itself. Like if you check their Instagram post or their website, you know that they already have a lot of events going on. And yeah, right now, Kaaya is doing her master in UCL, learning about global prosperity. Yeah, and also Kafi is also a UCL alumnus as well, studying environment and sustainable development program there. And yeah, they're both dialing from London right now, so I'm excited for them to share their presentation, I think. And I see that you already worked the background, right? Okay, then. I hope you enjoyed the session. For Ka Aya and Kafi, please take it away.
Okay, good
Afternoon.
afternoon, everyone. I'm going to put in my area.
Oh, shall we share our screen for the presentation or this?
Our team can help you with that, Ka.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good day from everywhere around the world. I think just like Intan told us that the participants will be from all over the globe. So here we are, Aya and Kafi, we are the whole package. So we have one red card for two of us. No, I'm kidding. So we're not separated, and we will talk about the things that we do and inherently our individual self, our character, not character, but our background and what made us, and all things that related to this kind
Mm.
cities that you have mentioned before. So I you can.
Okay, so we're going to talk about so it was supposed to be like about designing kind cities and also about civic engagement, but I think we're going to go even further back and like into the philosophical understanding of like this whole thing. And I really want to start by drawing from this passage from the Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. Uh, so the first is there is no such thing as a neutral educational process. So I think it's nice to start by kind of like this kind of like opening up with what education is really all about. And we believe that it's supposed to be a practice of freedom. It's supposed to be a place where we discover how to participate in the transformation of our world critically and also creatively. So it's supposed to be a place where we're not afraid to challenge the status quo and to challenge what is really we're supposed to be doing in this world. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, this is probably like a brochure version of like higher education. But anyway, what I want to talk about is that so education is supposed to be a place where we practice freedom. But the thing is, once we get to higher education, once we go to university, sometimes what happens is that we start to compartmentalize our minds. We start to become a part of this field or part of that field, and we become like basically divided, really. And instead of like opening up our horizon and broadening our minds, usually it becomes like even more narrow, and we become this one dimensional version of like what that subject or that core discipline is supposed to be. So
you can see that this is the classic brochure thing, like multiracial, multicultural students learning together. But I think if we put some kind of prejudice, these students will be all from the same master degree program, perhaps, or from the same PhD thing. They might be just all architecture students or cardiovascular and health students, something like that. And what I just said is that we compartmentalize our education system so much, all the silos, and yeah, we want to zoom out. And before this is maybe the first session in the webinar, then we want to talk about breaking the silos from understanding the core of education and what makes it very, very specialized. And can we really blur all of those things? And therefore, we will continue with the next slide. So the idea that why we need to talk about this is because there's no problem exists in isolation. And I might continue.
yes, this is we can just move on to the next one.
So by saying that no problem exists in isolation, is that this picture.
So I have two examples for this. The first one, I think I want to illustrate the examples by also about our back. We both have and we were both. And actually, I don't know if that, does anyone know what this is a picture of? This is actually a picture of Bantar Gebang. And so during one of my clinical experiences, I met a patient who, yes, Bantar Gebang, that's right. I met a patient who he got infected by tetanus, and that was because he lived around the area of Bantar Gebang, and it actually got pretty serious, the infection. And it was because he was supposed to fix a roof, and he fell down, and he fell down onto like a pile of trash like around the area. And now, if you think about this problem, is it like a problem that we can just fix by doing healthcare alone? Is it a problem that we can fix by giving him medicine alone, by giving him a stay at the hospital alone? That's not gonna fix the problem. That's only gonna cure his infection for the short term, but that's not going to address the socioeconomic injustice and the environmental issues that become the root causes of his condition. So we move on to the next slide. And this is another example. So maybe some of you know about the sugar tax. Indonesia has actually been trying to impose this on our sugar sweetened beverages. Well, despite like the controversies around it, but the point is that when we're talking about sugar tax from a healthcare perspective, it's supposed to be something that we do to like reduce the incidences of diabetes and other non-communicable diseases. But it is not something that is definitely can be done by the Ministry of Health alone. In fact, there's so little that the Ministry of Health can do to impose this, because this will actually have a lot of crossovers with other ministries, and eventually the policy to impose and to improve, like to increase prices, will definitely be not on the Ministry of Health, and will be on the Ministry of Industries and other ministries. Do you want to add on this?
Okay, so I want to add something a little bit more about this part. So you might be wondering that, isn't public health already talking about this, and or health economics, or the previous one regarding the sanitation and waste management, like, isn't that about only environment and health perspective thing that it's already been discussed and researched? So yeah, basically that's the idea, that those are the field of knowledge, the field of research and everything that was initially created as a multidisciplinary approach between practitioners and different fields. So that's why those fields are created. But the thing is, now that those people in the public health sphere and in maybe in an environment sphere, they are still becoming more into very hyper laser focused, and feels like it's another field of their own, which is not productive at all. And we feel like in Indonesia, especially in the context of what we have in the expertise realm, and also in the professional realm, and for example, also in the scholarship context and job applications context, that you may only apply and join and participate in this kind of thing only if you have the expertise, the experience, and importantly, the credentials and the education background for these things. So do you think that it's good? So I think that's the idea of a whole this bridging minds concept. And because what like Aya said in the UK sugar tax, like general people will not maybe understand about what this is about. And so many of so little of this is under the jurisdiction of Ministry of Health and everything. But okay, so where does this come from actually? So let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, and what we do when we compartmentalize problems and we treat problems as if they exist in isolation is we're gonna come to this blind elephant parable. It's like we are seeing the same problem through different sides, and we all come to different conclusions that it's not the actual problem itself. So we want to avoid this, and we don't want to see the world this way because that is not going to get us far, and that is not going to be what our and this is what we're going to try to address in what we do in Kind Cities.
And being involved in like public health or global health or environmental health like that, basically it's becoming just another part of just another person in this picture. Like you can only see things into one perspective and one lens. And maybe we want to break the silo by combining the public health thing with religion, and maybe there's a dimension in that. And I think that's the main idea of multidisciplinary and the cross-disciplinary and like transcendental disciplinary that we want to explore. And that's why Kind Cities exist, to connect all the dots and even sub-dots of everything, to see that the world is more than just this elephant, perhaps, because when you open the blindfold for these people, maybe there's a larger world out there. So that's the metaphor that we're aiming.
So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so sometimes when we talk to people and we talk about our background, it becomes kind of like confusing maybe for some people because I think what we do may not be able to be seen as like one thing, and it actually consists of many different things. But I think it should not actually be too weird or too abnormal, when someone has many different things that they do, because I think it is actually unnatural for a human being to just have one thing in their life or just focus on one thing in their life. And I don't think historically we've been that kind of species. Actually, we've always been very much eclectic, and like we've always been very much drawing on different things and wanting to put different things into the same into like our own perspective. So these are just a couple of things that we're doing right now, and I think if we actually talk about it a little bit more, they're not actually that far removed from each other, but they're definitely all kind of like going to kind of like the same direction. But I mean, it should not be weird at all that someone is doing like a lot of different things.
Yeah, this is us.
Okay. Okay, and let's move on to the next one.
So hence this idea of kindness is born. That what you talk about education and understanding things, basically it's under the tone of something called epistemology and the injustice that is happening inside this realm of understanding. So basically, we took this Merriam-Webster dictionary definition, that's epistemology is the study or the theory of the nature and grounds of knowledge, especially with reference to its limits and validity. And so that's basically it. That's how you can and you are enabled to understand the knowledge, the reference, and how it's limiting you and how it limits you and how it's valid or not valid, and whichever that is. So so what is it actually about? And next slide, please. Okay, just epistemology and kindness. So just is like, I mean, fair, not only epistemology, there's fair epistemology and kind city. So so many of us have been exposed to this idea, maybe research something in this framework and related to epistemic adjacent thing. But the idea that we understand and we believe about the core of epistemology is how people have different sets of knowledge, and even your toddler kid and your grandma, and it's always the example is like the indigenous community and women and the minority, that they have different kinds of knowledge, but those people, those individuals, they are not legitimized through the standards of science and through the standards of knowledge creation system. And maybe they all have different lived experience and understanding of the world, which is valid, 100% valid, because they live that, and maybe they have their own specific experience and understanding and hardware and brain power to understand the things that we don't understand. Like maybe your 5-year-old niece know better about dinosaurs, and what they understand is as valid as long as it's correct, it's as valid as something thrown out by like archaeologists. So that's our belief. And knowing this epistemic injustice, taking it as a global thing, like a more general thing happening in the public, we feel like, are we epistemically oppressed, like in the production of knowledge and exchanging information between people and education and like the sphere of academia and everything else? I feel like there is some kind of oppression beside something that is usually being talked about in the epistemic injustice discourse. So we want to give like some kind of meritocracy and legitimacy. And if you said that, I don't think that the world is meritocratic enough, and I don't think that in the realm of meritocracy it's really that good because the world is based on luck and everything. Okay, I know about that, but the myth of meritocracy is that if you learn hard enough and you achieve like some kind of degree and professionalism and like certification from higher education, it actually gatekeeps the people from understanding the knowledge, and it gatekeeps the participants in the realm of the academia, and it can create a dichotomy or like the oligo dichotomy, that it creates that knowledge is only for the smart people. So that's like only for the people who work in those things and only for the people who research in that area. So we want to bring this kind of legitimacy and meritocracy to people who don't have credentialism and like professional background or anything, but they know like in fact the objective reality of the world or of that aspect. So and then somebody will say that, well, then you're just put more like the death of expertise wave into this world. So yeah, we know that's happening, but the death of expertise is also like the death of elitism and like exclusivism, and maybe because the expertise is no institution like this who gives like stamp of legitimacy, and we don't want to become like another professional and educational, of course, credentialism, but we want to connect those people, and with this tone of collaboration and like expertise can come from anywhere, then we can create a fairer epistemic justice to build a fair and non-oppressive system of knowledge sharing. So that's basically the idea. And we also want to talk about the Johari window a little bit, that this is, I think, the core foundation of understanding also epistemology and what we do, that there are 4 different levels of understanding knowledge and the reality of the world. Like maybe I didn't put it in the slide, but yeah, there are basically what we know and what we don't know, but what we know, and what you know, and but I know that you know, and not everyone and no one knows that. And yeah, basically there are levels of understanding of who knows what, and what kind of reality that's happening. And maybe I know what maybe I know what's happening to you, but you don't know what's happening to you because you don't know the word for it, and we can tell you about it. Or you know everything about those things, but I don't know because I haven't lived that. So basically a variation and permutation of the levels of knowledge, and we want to bring this even further to something more that is open, more inclusive, and more justice. So I hope I can give like the gist of what is it actually about, and we want to challenge this even further by taking master degree that is, maybe we're the first doctors in that program, and we want to take a PhD, something in even more like astrology and astrophysicist and something like that. So just to challenge ourselves and to see that, is there like a big theme in all of this knowledge and in all of this knowledge production and knowledge exchange and all of the science. So maybe we want to keep like combining and blurring and mixing all the sciences, and maybe we'll find something new in the world because of that. So Aya, you want to say something?
Yeah, maybe just to close this off. So sometimes when we do science communication or when we talk about expertise, and we usually would talk to the general public, right? But the general public is where life happens. So general public knows about what we talk about because they have it in their lives. Maybe they don't always know the exact word for it or the exact term for it, but that's where life happens. So if we remove the general public from academic discourse, as we want to say it, or as in any discourse really, then we are actually depriving ourselves of the possibility of understanding this world better. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. This is just some documentation of what we did in some of our workshops. We were talking about transport options and mobility, equity in mobility, and we had some interesting discussions on some hot takes, I think, about transportation. Let's move on to the next one. This is just also some more examples. And yeah, I think we're going to end this one from a quote from R.H. Tawney, talking about how education should be seen as an end in itself, a space that people seek out not in order that they may become something else, so that you can get a job, or so that you can go to the school and do this and do that, but because you are what you are, and you were curious in this one thing or that one thing, and that you seek education as an end and not as a means.
And we feel like maybe the purest form of resistance, of fighting the evilness in this world and the regime and capitalism and everything, is just to study, because I think that's the core of justice, the core of humanity, and we should see it more as maybe that's the end. Maybe that's okay to have a PhD in your 70s, because then your knowledge will go to waste. No, of course not. Or maybe if you're taking, for us in our context, like specialty residency in medicine, like taking like a urology in your 50s, then you're too old to be a surgeon. And no, maybe I just want to learn, and that's as valid as anything as you can think, because in the learning process, that's where the process of resistance is happening, and the process of humanity at its core is being lived 100%. So that's our belief. So I hope that can be taken into your heart. And yeah, thank you. We have 10 minutes for question. Back to you, Intan.
All right. Thank you so much for the inspiring session for Kak Aya and Kak Kafi. I'm gonna turn this opportunity to the participants that want to ask question to these two amazing doctors that also happen to be multi-talented in other stuff as well. Does anybody has any question for Kak Aya and Kak Kafi? You can also state it in Bahasa Indonesia if you want. You may raise your hand, but if anybody have any questions to ask, anyone? So I guess I'm the one who gonna ask the question, Ka. I was wondering, the doctor, I found it really rare for me to see like doctors who also do what you do. Is it also how you see it? Like, do you feel that you're the only one who also doing environmental stuff, also concerning about like global prosperity, for example, also doing entrepreneurships? Because I feel like a lot of doctors are super specialized, right? And they simply don't have time to do other things as well. And yeah, I guess my question to you, is it rare? And do you feel alone and lonely in your field, multi-diverse field?
So to say that we are the only ones doing this will be unfair, because I believe that there are like more amazing doctors out there who are also astronauts and film directors, and like who made the Mad Max franchise. And Michael Crichton is also a doctor who wrote Jurassic Park. And I think that's the quality and the variation that we strive for, and we don't see it that often in the place that we love so much and we live. That is Indonesia. That if there's a doctor working on something, then the title and the nuance of doctor will like blanket him or her all over, and it becomes their whole identity. And we don't want to be like that, actually. And we want to say that, yeah, being a doctor is just another profession. And I don't want to for you to like judge us according to all the branding and the nuance and the prejudice around that profession. But I think by understanding that, yeah, doctors can also be everything, of course. And yeah, I think once you take off the coat of the white coat and the identity, then maybe something can just happen to you, and you can just be anything else. And yeah, I don't think that mentality still can exist in many doctors. So, but yeah, I believe there are more doctors leave their identity, but yeah, that's not for us. But yeah, we still acknowledge that we're doctor. Maybe we are, in fact, will go back to the world of clinical medicine. But yeah, the idea is that it's not that majority, but yeah, we don't feel lonely. Why should we feel lonely? We have each other, and we have friends, and yeah. But practically speaking, maybe yeah, because we're feeling sometimes judged and are misunderstood, like especially by the older generations, like what are you actually trying to do? Gitu. Yeah, learning. But yeah, that's it. I
So I feel like actually the idea of doctors not doing anything else other than doctoring is actually a relatively new idea, because if you see even Indonesia's history, we have Cipto Mangunkusumo and his friends who were part of the
resistance.
yes, and like who were definitely part of what pushed the independence of this country, and they were not just. I mean, so yeah, basically the idea of someone just doing one thing is a relatively new idea, even as new as the late 1900s, maybe late 20th century. Because I think up until the the 20th century, well, we were still doing everything because like I said, it's not natural actually for humans to be just doing one thing, and we all want to be part of the same kindness and the same good movement that want to make everyone's lives better. And so I think we're all actually just going to the same direction and trying to achieve the same things. But I think maybe we need to realize more that we need to gather many different perspectives and also not be one-sided or one-dimensional about like our own lives, and not to see us as like this, not to compartmentalize ourselves like from within, because historically that's not the case. And yeah.
Okay, back to you.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I think, is there anyone else who wants to ask question to Kak Aya and Kak Kafi before they have to leave the Zoom? Oh, we have a question from Safina. How do you bridge your academic background in medicine with the other aspects of a problem? What's your strategy in connecting the dots in complex problem like inequality? That's a really great question, by the way, Safina. Kak Aya and Kak Kafi, maybe you can answer it directly.
Okay, so yeah, there's a how do you bridge? Yeah, so bridging lines. So I feel like this is something that you can do regardless of where you are and what your position is in this world. And I think it always starts with the mind. And so like we also said, there is no problem that exists in isolation, even as simple as having a patient who got infected by tetanus in a hospital. That is not an isolated problem, and everything. Okay. And also everything is always interconnected. I think maybe I will give two examples. I think as a doctor, from like a more of a medicine point of view, I think if you are a practicing doctor, then that's definitely something that you can apply on your day-to-day basis. And it's actually interestingly, it's very hard to see a patient just from their disease and just from the medical perspective. When we talk to a patient, it's always very comprehensive. And most of the times, so this is, I think, one point that I want to add. Most of the times, when you have insight from something other than your core discipline, it will actually strengthen your core discipline. So maybe there's not really like a very specific or a very like rigid way to bridge, because once you actually understand something beyond your core discipline, it will actually strengthen the understanding of your core discipline. So when, for example, just like from a clinical experience, when we talk to patients, it will help them better and help us better if we understand about the possible socioeconomic factors that contribute to their illness, for example. And if we zoom out a little bit and we go even just a tiny bit into some more policymaking or managerial positions, like in Dinkes or Kemenkes, and in other policymaking positions, then I think it's that, and that part is pretty obvious. And the problem actually is that now we don't do that yet enough, and we are still very like narrow-minded in terms of how we see the problems, and yeah, so maybe that's the insight.
And if I may add that this is a bit like schizogram here, the word nowadays, that we feel like once we learn more things outside the realm of medicine, it's like the fabric of reality is made from the same thing. And so I learned about like transport planning and like environment and sanitation, waste management, and I learned about inequality and injustice that's happening, and it's caused by the same actors again and again. And the things that we talk about are the same actually with what's happening in the field of public health and medicine. And then even when we talk with people like in the art scene, like filmmakers and like real artists, musicians, and then they talk about something non-anthropocentric and humans and everything. Wait, I think I also understand that from this kind of field. And we've talked with economists, and they also saying the same thing, like ABC, but for us maybe it's A1, B1, C1, if that makes sense. But there's some kind of like a red thread in all of field of knowledge, maybe because it's all science, but maybe it's because of something else, like yeah, the reality is just too interconnected, and you cannot just understand like one thing only in one thing. So by learning this thing, you must have learned something like even a little bit from the other thing as well. So I really don't like the idea of that, like, the sphere of knowledge, and you learn and then you like put a bump in the understanding. No, actually, when you learn something, then you actually widen the circle a little bit. So everything is everything, and it's everywhere, and it's happening all at once. So I think, yeah, that's the idea of science making, understanding things. So the bridging is happening like simultaneously. So yeah, you can answer the second question.
Okay, I think there is another one, right? There's one more question.
Okay, there are so many problems out there, and how do you decide which one to focus on first? So I think the major political and global figure that already figured this out is the girl who is very great, and whose name is Greta Thunberg. So she used to be like only like a climate change activist and everything, but then she figured out that all the core problems lies from capitalism, exploitation, racism, white people, bule, and all the imperialism and the colonization that has been happening for centuries. So yeah, there are so many problems out there, but what Greta said, that all the poverty, inequality, and the all the problems in the transportation system and air quality, healthcare, and science making, it's all under the same culprit of unfairness in the science creating process, and exploitation happening between countries, and imperialism and racism. So I think just to understand that, and capitalism, and to understand that, we can just stay clear on the connections that it's all the same thing again. And you cannot, maybe I can challenge everyone that tell me one problem of humanity that does not come from things, and I will be surprised if you can find one. So you may
Yeah.
add.
So you're saying that basically like there's
It's all you.
there's not that many problems. That's what basically saying. There's like basically just one or two core problems, but yeah, that that could be challenge if we want to challenge him.
Yeah, all
Okay.
problem goes back to capitalism and racism. So
Okay.
Yeah,
fear that.
that's true.
So I think we
Oh
ran
yeah,
out of time. Maybe if
Yes. I think it'll be good if you can stay a little bit in the Zoom to try to reply to Firda via chat. Maybe share your contact as well. Unfortunately, we have to move to our next speaker due to our time constraint. But thank you so much, Kaya and Kafi. I'm sure people here are still excited to talk with you. So please feel free to reply on the chat box. Thank you so much, Ka.
thank you,
thank
Intan,
you.
and Bridget my
All right.
screen.
Without further ado, we shall move on to our next speaker, which is a very close friend of mine, which is Sherley Adalia, the co-founder and head advisor of Grow Up ONS, and also former Club Accelerator lead at Grow Up Southeast Asia. She's also doing a little diplomacy as well right now as her professional career. So without further ado, please take it away, Shirley.
Hi, Indan. Thank you so much for introducing me. Can you help with the PowerPoint, please?
Yes,
The
okay.
previous, yeah, the previous session was actually very interesting. Thank you, Kaya and Kafi, for giving such a great first session to Bridging Minds webinar. I'm still waiting for my PPT.
Mhm. Okay,
Okay.
it's showing on me, I think.
Yes. I guess listening, I'm gonna start with a realization that I just had while listening to the previous session. I feel like today we're gonna talk about the same fight. We're gonna talk about the same resistance. Um, but maybe we're gonna be using different languages based on our background and expertise. And I think that's very good. That's really very aligned with what Bridging Mind wants to do, which is um, to kind of give the participants and people who will be watching the records um, options on which language or which um, which field can um, push them to start joining the same resistance that actually is most relevant and most motivational to them. So with that, I'm gonna start my session by speaking more on framework or concept, or also can be used as a methodological tool, which is intersectionality. Next. But before that, I know Intan has introduced me. I feel like it's a bit awkward to introduce myself, but I'm gonna do it so very briefly. Yes, I'm the co-founder and first president of Growanas, which Intan was also leading last year.
General.
I'm now the head advisor of the club, and I used to be the club accelerator lead at Grab Southeast Asia. I currently work in a Southeast Asian regional organization where I organize and advocate for women, peace, and security in the region, or the BPS agenda, if you're familiar with that term. I have my focus in gender development and peace, and the nexus of these three. And I was also awarded ISMA. If you guys are, I think several participants here are also ISMA awardees. I participated, or I'm now an alumni of Klingendel Institute in Netherlands. And more personal, yes, I love photography and I love I'm obsessed with Coffee Coffee right now. I think I've been obsessed with matcha, and I think their matcha is very good and very affordable, which is very uncapitalistic. But yeah. Next. So I'm gonna share why I do gender advocacy, and I feel like it starts first, always personal. I think even though we're talking about interconnectedness, even though we're talking about not working in silos and working um, and seeing things more generally and more and wider, I think it's also important to talk about there's always gonna be one or two issue that first triggers your activism or your advocacy. You must always start somewhere in one field that calls you, that became your calling in your life, something that you're gonna fight for until you die. And that's for me was GBV, gender-based violence. I was during high school, even junior high school, I was that was the first time that I was exposed by gender-based violence. Um, I got violated in a way by my best friend, but I only realized that in senior high school because I thought it was something that was normal. I thought it was something that oh no, nobody really talked about GBV. Nobody really talked about how women got violated, not just physically, mentally, but also mentally, and they got discriminated in every little to bigger things. So I thought it would be weird if I talk about it and nobody would care. But then I realized in senior high school that it was not something that should be normalized. It's a violation of human rights, of basic foundational human rights. And so I started talking to other people, right? So I started talking to my friends about GBV, about hey, we are women. Do you guys feel the same thing? Do you also get discriminated like this? Oh, hey, you're a man. Do you get discriminated like this? I started talking to different friends, and I came to a conclusion that it's a collective problem. It is an oppression towards minorities, not only women, but minorities in general, and how it's actually a bigger thing than just men versus women, right? And then so during college and my university year, I found that there's very lack of support, very lack of education and discussion about these social injustices in my university that focuses their movement in gender. And that's why, basically, why I decided to approach some of my friends, and we together founded Grow Up ONS in ONS. And in the end, why it was 4 years ago when I founded Grow Up ONS, and it's still going strong till today. And I'm still very much motivated and committed in my work in gender. That's why I do what I do now. I still work in women, peace, and security. That's very much still gender-based approach. And why? Because gender advocacy, you would come to realize that gender advocacy and gender issues is not one issue amongst many, but it runs through all issues of inequality. If we look closely in issues like economics, business, governance, climate, urban planning, city design, gender is always there. It shapes who have access to resources, who will feel safe, who will be more vulnerable, who gets paid, whose voices will be heard most, most, heard less. And that's why I said it runs through all issues of inequality, and social inequality always discusses or always touches gender. we cannot talk about poverty without noticing the differences between the different experiences of poverty between women and men, women as mothers, women as wives. We cannot not talk about that when we're talking about poverty. We cannot talk about climate without seeing how women, especially those in rural areas, in margins, carry disproportionate burdens, multiple burdens. And we cannot talk about, let's say, decolonization without seeing how colonial language, how colonial legacies not only controlled our lands, but they also control how people see women, how people see women's bodies, how people talk about even women. Whatever inequality we're talking about, gender is already there. And that's why I choose gender as my first stepping stone to my activism, to my advocacy. Next. This is just a quick glimpse of Girl Buenas because I think Intan and I are very proud of how Girl Buenas become what they are now. We've been through a lot, ups and downs, but we're now here for 4 years, and we have several achievements like I shared in the PowerPoint. But what I want to highlight is that when we first founded Grab Buenas, or for sure, we wanted to have a one like jargon or like a principle thing that we can always use in every program, in every campaign, in every advocacy that is aware of the context level or the context um yeah the level of the context and aware of the situation in Solo itself, which is the city where I grew up when I grew, right? And so we decided to pick a jargon that is in Javanese. It's said Nyawijinya takkan sesami, or in Indonesian it's called bersatu memperkuat sesama. In English, unite to strengthen one another. Why? Why? Because this is basically what our movement is going to be about, was about, and is about, which is providing a safe platform to share your burdens, your challenges, your oppression, and to collectively find a solution to solve that from us to us. And it was important for us to have a guidance in our movement, and we naturally chose that we want to focus our movement on intersectionality or intersectional feminism. Now, next I'm gonna talk about intersectionality. Next. So intersectionality is the first was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw. She is an African American feminist legal scholar. She's, I think, now 66 years old. She coined this in 1989, where she noticed that in laws, in everyday lives, women in United States were facing discrimination that wasn't captured when courts looked at race and gender separately. So, of course, because she is an African American woman, her struggles, her first struggles or advocacy started coming from the rights of African American women. And she realized that people cannot understand that our multi identities can create multi oppression as well. And so she coined this term to kind of advocate for it and for people and to kind of make people see that we have our multi identities create unique challenges, but also privileges in our lives. And intersectional feminism never only discuss gender, it also discuss identities, power relations, history, and even politics. And Kimberly Crenshaw, she described intersectionality like standing in a traffic intersection, like the picture in the PowerPoint. So oppression can come from many directions, right? You see class oppression, sexuality oppression, race oppression, gender identity, disability, and so many more. And when they collide, people at the intersection and us can experience unique forms of harm at the same time. And this is what intersectionality teaches us. It's not about adding identities like a checkbox, right? But it recognizes how power relations, how systems of power can interlock and can burdens us even more. Next. Next. Thank you. We have this diagram, which I think is very helpful to describe intersectionality. You can see in the diagram, in the inner corner, the first, like the very small circle, there's us, an individual, right? We can see this from many different diverse age, even when we're young, when we're still an infant, child, um, adolescence, adult, when we're in middle age, old age, whatever. We as individuals, we have so many identities, be it from gender, religion, class, education, where we are, geographic location, sexuality, ability, race, and ethnicity. And these identities expose us to the different systems and powers that currently we live in. So for example, yeah, I'm gonna start with the story. Um, I have a woman that I know who lives in rural area in Banten. She's a mother of three. She didn't finish her schools, so she married young, and now she's working double job, a housemaid and a street vendor, penjual makanan pinggir jalan ya, selling food, snacks, or flowers or anything that she can sell in her son's schools. Her husband was just recently fired, and so she has been helping her husband to find work, like washing people's cars, etc. And she's also expected to take care of her old mother, who has been very sick for years now, and there's no proper healthcare in the area. Now, imagine being her, okay? Can you imagine the multiple struggles that she has that shaped her multiple identities? She's from rural area where access is not always easy. She's a wife, she's a mother of three and a daughter. She has to work from morning to night, take care of her husband, her sons, her mother. She doesn't have formal education, so her work will always be stuck in what she's working now. Now imagine when the weather now currently is not stable. It's raining every day because of climate crisis, yeah? The weather is unstable, the climate is not doing well. The urban planning in rural area is very bad and not people-centered in her area, so it has been flooding everywhere. It causes her to stop selling food in the schools for a while, and she cannot sell anything with the flood. So she only has a half of her usual income, but she's responsible for her family household. And her struggles, we've come to realize now, okay? Check. Always check her struggles. Always just and because she's from also because there's no labor rights in her area in athletes. There's no good city planning and there's no environmental justice. Yeah. So with intersectionality, we now realizes that we now uses that to kind of create more solutions that can address those problems. And intersectionality also teaches us not to pity her, but to empathize with her. Berempatilah dengan dia. Ya. Next. Next. Okay. And how does intersectionality solve problems? Yeah, it can be like I said a theoretical framework. It can be a methodological tool. It can also be concept. And for me now, it's my belief. It's something that I see every day. It's the lens that I use when I see people. It can help us see problems or oppression more holistic. It can offer us inclusive solutions. It is a lens that acts as a bridge that connect issues that we thought could be relevant to one another, but it actually very much intertwined. Next. Now, I want to challenge you. I've been speaking on intersectionality, and I think this is an issue that has to be experienced first. We cannot just talk about intersectionality and expect people to understand intersectionality and use them in everyday life and their advocacy if they cannot experience intersectionality itself. So, after this webinar ends, I want every participant, I have a little request for everyone, for me including myself. We're gonna go back to our work, right? Tomorrow is Monday. Whether we're fresh graduates, whether we're just starting our job, whether we're working in economics, business, whether we're helping our parents building their store, in health, in public health, like Kaya and Kafi, in urban development, I invite you to ask, where is gender in my work, in your work? Whose stories are we missing? Are we not, whose stories we're not talking about yet? And how can we make sure our solutions include those at the intersections? I wrote 3 guiding questions that we can ask ourselves in our daily work for you to kind of consider. Next. I think, yeah. I'm gonna finish by saying that if you wish to work in gender advocacy, remember that your work is important to be empathy based and impact based. It's not just empathy based, because if it's only empathy based, sometimes you cannot assess our impact. And impact in our professional world, to do gender advocacy in of government, international organizations, people in community, people from outside of the region, you will come to realize that they care about impact more in tangible ways. So it's our challenge to be able to give as much as we can to the communities through the money that we were given to the benefactors. Because in the end, the benefactors always would be more interested to give money to those who know how to use the money well. And for them to assess that is through impact. Usually quantitative impact. Yes, I would admit that, because in my work, I think government people with money, they would care more about seeing numbers of people impacted by their money. That's one. Second, always strategize. In gender advocacy, you cannot just be depressed all the time about the world. Intan and I we're discussing about this yesterday actually, but you cannot be depressed all the time when you're working in advocacy. It's a depressing world, it's a depressing work as well, but you have to strategize, and you have to be able to have a influential skills to make people that didn't care about the issue cares now. And that is usually most effective if you do or prioritize multi-stakeholder collaboration. Working in gender advocacy, where the status quo right now is not really supporting your ideology means that you have to be able to lose to win. Kita harus mau rendah hati enough untuk kalah dulu untuk menang. That means working with your enemies. It's okay if the end goal is to help people. Don't gatekeep your movement, but invite people that see your movement as a threat, that see your movement as skeptical. Invite them to discussions. Invite them to have a debate with you. Invite them with open arms, with open minds, and try to challenge yourself. How can they think with your lens, with intersectionality? And last but not least, take a break. It's a mentally draining work. It's not an easy work, and your mental, personal health is very important. And it's always better to work when you're mentally aware or when your energy is full, because the outcome will be much better and much more what you expected the outcome to be. So yeah, don't be afraid to work in general advocacy, I would say. It's not as it is challenging, it is scary, but when you found the right place and you which is a bit difficult, I would say, to be honest. With the current situation right now, I think everyone is having a difficult time trying to find the right job. But gender advocacy it doesn't always have to be in the professional area. It usually is more on community personal level area. Um, but yeah, gender advocacy is something that we can always choose to work on. I guess that would be my final statement. I would be open if you have any questions on how to work professionally in this area, and how to maybe address the challenges that we are currently facing right now. So I'll end my presentation here, and I'll welcome any questions. And I'll take Intan. I'll give Intan the floor.
All right, thank you so much, Sherley. We probably
Great.
have 5 minutes for Q&A. Does anybody have any question to ask for Sherley? Maybe through the chat box, or you can also raise your hand if you want to ask it directly. I think a lot of people want to consider work in gender, but they might be not know how to, or if that's even possible for them. So yeah, if anybody here is interested in what Shirley is talking about, please feel free to state your question right now or hold your peace forever. She's also going to share your contact, right, Ka?
Yes. Social media or email then?
It's up to you.
Okay, I'm gonna share my email and Instagram. Yeah. Okay. Wait.
Okay, thank you all. Does anybody has a question? Well, maybe if people are still typing, I have one question to you, Shirley, because we were also talking about this yesterday. And yeah, I've been working closely with you as well. I just want to know, can you like share any insights, any hot takes on how to make your passion sustainable? Because the thing about passion, sometimes it comes and goes, and it's not only talking about like how the current political environment or atmosphere is shifting, but also personal stuff as well, right? But you are very consistent. You know, since junior high school that you wanted to do, like you're already curious about gender, right? And you continue it through your career as well. So I just want to know, how do you sustain this passion and curiosity?
Um, Maybe I would not call gender my passion. I see it as a calling, Tan. Um, so maybe that's why in the end I would always try to connect whatever I'm doing with gender. I guess it's a calling that I don't know if it can be explained scientifically, but it's in a way it's something that I find fulfilling when even though I'm tired, even though I'm mentally drained, I just know that this is what I want to do in life, in whatever form and whatever I am. So I wouldn't say that it's a passion. I feel like passion is BS now. But it because it changes, yeah. Passion changes, I feel like. But it's not a passion, it's maybe my passion more is like community building, um grassroots movement. That's a passion. But gender, I feel like it's calling. And I don't know if I can give advice on how to make it sustainable because it's a way it's not something that I plan. It's something that comes and something that I strategize. Okay, maybe and then I do plan it, yeah. Because after having exposed to so many gender advocacies and experience, it became a good pattern in my CV. Now we're talking about work, right? It became a good pattern in your CV. So while it's very much fulfilling me, I also try to find it, I also try to think how to make it how to make it a good strategy for my career. And um, I try to make it a pattern, like a theme in my CV, so it's easier for people to see my expertise in what. And it's also possible to make our activism our work if we know where to look. Like I told you before, if you want to work in NGOs, there's ways, there's strategies and approaches that you can um, um, choose to be able to be seen better or to be able to be more interested in paper and in CV. Or if you want to work in international organizations like me, it's also important to know the area or the industry. Oh, what kind of people are this? Gender is a lot, is very, very selling in international governmental organizations, guys. In IGOs, it's very selling. People, even though with the current situation with, can I say Trump? Yeah, okay. Even though with current situation with Trump, um, and how the far right movement is increasing globally, gender and social justice is still issues that countries talk about. So it's still within the interest of global dynamics and global stakeholders. So if you want to go there, go there. I think it's a good option as well. Yeah, IGOs, but you do also have to know the competition is quite tight and it's quite a privileged area, which is still annoying lah. But yeah, I don't think I can give like a sustainable um how to make it sustainable, but what I just gave is how to strategize your calling or your slash passion to your career. Because it is possible, still possible to make your activism your career, but it is likely based on privileges and challenges as well. That's why we look at that very intersectionally.
Well, okay, thank you so much, Sherley. For any other participant who still have questions, please feel free to reach her out on her email and Instagram. But unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for this session. And yeah, you may leave the Zoom if you have any other activities after this. Thank you so much, Sherley.
Thank you, Intan. Thank you, guys.
Okay, now we are moving on to another inspiring session. Maybe we can pull up the profile speaker so the participants will know who comes next. Well, okay, please welcome Kak Jessica Situmeang. She's happened to be my former debate coach when I was in high school, but she's right now doing her work in Siklus as the marketing and communication lead. She's also doing other stuff as well, involving art, in particular singing or performing. So you might also find her in like the last Glee concert here in Jakarta. So yeah, if you think you are familiar with her work, maybe that's why. But in this session, she will share the reality of working in sustainable startup in Indonesia. And she's gonna be super honest with you. She's gonna be share a lot of things that you might not find any other place. So make sure to be as interactive as possible. Keep the chat coming throughout her session. But yeah, without any further ado, please take it away, Kak Jessica.
Thank you, Intan. Hi everyone. Masih excited ya. So hi, my name is Jessica. I'm currently marketing and communication lead in Siklus. The title is marketing, but I basically do a lot of things, wear different hats because it's a small team, and I have been in Siklus for 5 years right now. So from the very beginning, first year in Jakarta opening pilot, I've been there. So I hope I can share, you know, the journey uh, in the most honest possible way. So the title for today's discussion is the real story about building sustainable retail startup in Indonesia. Is there possible that someone can help me with sharing the screen? Yes, thank you. Yes, so this is me 4 years ago. So the pictures are next. So I would like to be very, I think if you want to know about Siklus and what we're doing, you can really see it in social media or in our website. It's easy, it's there. But what I want to share today is like some of the things that you might not know through the media and how it actually look like starting a business and building a sustainable retail in Indonesia. Yes. Next.
Profile speaker for Najma Layali and Ardani, who happens to be my debating friend back in high school. But right now, Najma is doing her master in Erasmus as an Erasmus scholar in Italy and France. And Sarah Arda happened to be a YLI with 13 alumni. And she did consulting as well, and also was the former System Mapping Student Forum lead, which we will meet again on the second session later tonight. But yeah, I think you can just pull out the presentation from them. Are you ready for Katara and Kanachma? Okay, I think you can share yourself if you want.
Yes, can I? Okay, hold on. Can you guys see this?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, hi everyone. I hope everyone is still excited to be in this webinar. Today's session is sort of answering previous questions of like how to balance your idealism and also how to act in a system. So this session is about why purpose demands thinking, but quick introductions. I'm Sadariskar Danny. I was a major economics double major of economics and psychology at Wesleyan with data analysis minor. I worked as an ex-consultant at Roland Berger, and I can share more about that later. But the main thing here impact and climate action. Over to Najma for a quick intro.
Yeah, I also did my bachelor's in economics in Russia, and I'm now currently doing master's in policy, which is a bit different from my bachelor's because when I look at my bachelor's, it's more of a neoclassical economics point of view, but here I'm taking a look at a heterodox economics point of view, so kind of an alternative point of view. But and what I've been doing is dealing a lot with behavioral economics and experimental economics, but basically looking at this alternative view of economics and how we can deal with the theory of economics we have now and how to kind of challenge it, see it in a different view. And this is what I kind of want to look more into, and we will see today also.
And this is a big piece forward to that. But just a quick glance of what we'll cover today, bringing in all there from like the previous speakers who have all actively in the system in the different ways from advocacy to businesses. We want tie it all together, like what is the trap of like thinking linearly and or in silos, how to shift towards systems thinking, how to experiment with how you enact within a system, and then later to understand why complexity doesn't excuse inaction. And all this session will hopefully embolden you to act towards change and also be brave in ideating solutions within that system that you're passionate about. So a quick beginning of what is exactly the trap of linear or silo thinking. So linear thinking, just quickly, is assuming something is in straight line and is a very cause and effect relationship and treating problems as isolated, predictable, or sequential. Silo thinking is kind of similar, but it's more of how usually departments or teams think within or operate in isolation, and there's little collaboration across those teams. There's a lot of reasons why we fall into this, but also mainly it's because our brains simplify complex problems automatically. It helps us to be more efficient, and this is a psychology fact. Simple cause and effect stories help us comprehend things more easily. They're easier to defend, and usually it overlooks delayed consequences, making us assume that we know the system better than we actually do. Also, on top of all of that, there's also like stay in your lane mentality and reinforced. With the previous section, I think a speaker mentioned how like a doctor usually like is only as a doctor, but he works cross section, and I think that's like what humans are supposed to be doing anyways. And then also an understanding that if it's easier to work in isolation than to go across system is I think a challenge that is usually in bureaucracies or even in our educational system when we think that like we know the things better than we do, or like we are told to just stay within our departments. There's a lot of reasons why this is a thing, but mainly it ignores complexities, it ignores feedback loops and it assumes stability that rarely exists in main life. It misses unintended consequences, so that's why the solutions are seen as quick fixes and doesn't actually fix the whole system. It limits innovation, to be quite frank, because we favor known solutions and we're afraid to change or ideate solutions that are seen as like quote unquote radical. It hides systemic risks, and then there's also other things of like redundancies and friction increase. They can't see how their work matters, and there's also missed opportunities across boundaries, and innovation stays incremental. So shifting towards systems thinking, this is just like an example. People say if I work longer hours, I get more work done. But actually, have you considered that working longer hours may initially increase your output, but over time, it reduces your focus, and burnout can lower productivity and the quality of work. So that's an example of a quick fix that doesn't actually fix the system or the problem. Another example, the product team designs features and customer support deals with user complaints later. But actually, have you considered that if the teams were together from the very beginning, feature designs would better anticipate user issues, improving satisfaction, and reducing complaints overall? So this is just some of those ideas. And this is a quote by Russell Ackoff. I think that's a very important thing about systems thinking is a part is never modified unless it makes the whole better. And this is a systemic principle. You don't change the part because it makes the part better without considering the impact on the whole, and that is systemic thinking. I'll skip over a bunch of this because actually in the later half of the webinar, we have a very prominent leader and a practitioner in systems thinking that will go into depth about what systems thinking is. But I think the important thing here to know is how to transition towards seeing things in system is to start picking up patterns, collaborating across teams, finding leverage points where you can take action. And the most important that I want to really emphasize here is to experiment and learn. I don't think we will ever fully see or understand the system because systems are so complex, it's so intercorrelated with other systems, and the world itself is complex, it changes. And so I think the most important thing here is to experiment and learn, test your interventions, learn from feedback, and adapt. And going into that, the next thing that I want to say is how I started with my journey into climate action. This is just like a snapshot of just how complex the climate change systems map is. And there's a lot of levers that you can, but this is my journey and my story. So pre-2020, I was just a little baby at Wesleyan University studying, like all of you are, trying to figure out where I can make the most change. I think one of the biggest calling that I had was social impact, and I started volunteering at Westmeet. This is sort of bringing resources to previously reincarnated individuals who are looking to re-enter into the workforce. Then I was also a student lead at the Purchase Center for Social Entrepreneurship. And here I created a student forum. We'll talk about that more later. It's about systems mapping. I teach students and I bring them over to the Oxford competition. And we have winners from that competition in the later half of this webinar. But also as part of the PCSE, I would look over people who are trying to get grants. And then I would help them and advise them on how to make their deck more appealing. Also, on top of that, I was the Wild Eye Week 13 with my project on Case Hut, which is sort of bringing career development programs to people all over the Indonesia with very reduced qualifications for re-entering that program. The purpose of this, doing all of this, is I really wanted to learn about social issues that were important to me, and I really, really wanted to create social impact whenever possible in all of the roles that I took. What I learned from this, the biggest turning point is I took this class called Economics of Resources. And basically, I learned that a lot of the climate sort of problems that we have now affect different groups differently, marginalized groups. For example, in terms of like waste, for example, usually the waste landfills are located in areas that are quote unquote poor. So they have more effects of like health risk and their water runoffs, etc., etc. And I thought that climate change is also a social issue that requires urgent attention. So this is sort of the turning point for me. After that, I became sort of a climate conscious individual, promoting climate conscious habits to close networks. A lot of people saw me as annoying because I would tell them to like, don't use your plastic straws or things of that nature. And the purpose of all of this was to raise climate awareness and curb my personal use of energy intensive products. So what I did here is I would thrift a lot of my wardrobe. This is a fun fact, but 70% of my wardrobe are actually thrifted. I would trains instead of planes whenever possible. If it's a short trains is usually the method of transport that I would use. And on top of that, I would try really hard to be conscious of like managing my waste and make sure that it's like limited where possible. I important, but as I was reading more into it, the key learning that I learned here is reducing my own but the real impact requires shifting responsibility from individuals to the systems and corporations that drive emissions. Because this is a known fact. For example, in the fossil fuel industry, they sort of promote recyclability when in fact they're the biggest proponents of how many plastic there are in the world right now. They're always pushing the production of plastics and they're pushing the consumers to recycle when in fact, we could cut back production and look for other ways to package, look for other ways to um, use alternative methods instead of using plastic. So that's sort of like the key learning that I learned during my 2022 period, I would say. And then in 2023, after learning that, maybe we should actually shift the responsibility towards corporations, I took on my role as a junior consultant at Roland Berger as the chemicals team, which chemicals is one of the industries that are in the red right now with very little effort to reducing their carbon footprint. And then on top of that, I was also the Boston Sustainability Ambassador and Be Green team. And the purpose here that I tried to enact was embed climate awareness into consulting practices and foster a low carbon workplace. So what I did as Boston Sustainability Ambassador, for example, is I would hold sessions and meetings with our partners and other consultants and share learnings of what we had from previous projects on how to, for example, if we found a solution to reduce a carbon footprint in energy usage for an airplane in one client, then we sort of like bring that key learning to another airline industry client. So that's sort of like the learning that we were sharing with each other. And also on top of that, we had Earth Day activities. We would track our own carbon footprint, but also track the project footprint, how many flights we're taking to clients, et cetera, et cetera. And we really try to foster this low carbon workplace. But the key learnings here, unfortunately, was that sustainability projects are often very client driven with profits as the main driver. So what I mean here is that even though I myself wanted to work on green projects as much as possible, I advocated for myself to be on those projects. It was very limited. It doesn't come as often as you would hope because the clients are the ones who come to us with the projects, and sometimes sustainability is not even on top of their mind. And usually, even if it's a sustainability project, profit is still the main driver because of the way our economy works, right? And then second on top of that is strong regulations are very crucial to align business incentives with climate action. And what I mean here is I've seen so many businesses suddenly caring about the environment because governments were giving tax cuts or subsidies or sort of that nature to align their incentives with climate action. And I also, in this process of working as a consultant, I began questioning infinite growth in terms of economic growth. Is it really that important for us to continue growing when there are countries out there that are still do not as well off as like America, since that was like my main client portfolio, right? So now, after a year and 7 months at the company, I decided to quit. I'm now currently a perspective master student, currently in a gap year. And what I want to do here right now is continue updating my mental models of climate change and learn tools to shape climate policy and rethink economics. I think that was like the biggest point that I wanted to learn more about is how do we shift to a heterodox economics. And this is sort of where Nachma will come in. And just one last quote is through this journey, what I want to really emphasize is purpose demands system thinking. It requires choosing where you can influence, adapting as the system evolves or your understanding of it, and also grounding action in your values for real impact.
Yeah,
Over to
and
Natra.
I really love listening to Sarah's story and her journey. It's really inspiring. But I'm going to come in here and be a little pessimistic because to get to this point where Sarah's at, it's really hard, especially when we think about systems thinking. We can be hopeful and think, oh, yes, I want to make a change in how I look at life, or I want to change my purpose. But once you actually start going through this journey or start realizing that I want to do this, you are faced with a dilemma. You are faced with a paradox that even in the reading Sarah mentioned by Donella Meadows, where she talks about systems thinking, that although having the system thinking expands our awareness and helps us understand how the world works, we are exposed and we are faced with how limited our understanding of the world is. And Sarah mentioned that actually maybe we will never reach, or we're not able right now to understand everything in the world. And so this is a really big dilemma that maybe people who are in systems thinking face, and I even face in my journey as well. So how can we tackle this? Like what how can we deal with this kind of thing? Next. Um, yeah, and so I want to try thinking about this in economics because as Sarah said, even when she tried to do it in her company, everything is driven by profit. Us ourselves also, we always think about what's most advantageous for us or how can we get the most benefit out of everything. So let's think about it through economics. I want to involve you in this. I want you guys to participate, and I want to ask, think about the last time you purchased something that you don't often buy, something big, maybe a phone, a laptop, a washing machine, I don't know. Maybe some of you want to share why you decided to purchase this thing, what you bought first, and why you decided to purchase this. What helped you in buying it? You can just turn on your mics and say,
I think I might just share mine. If anybody else want to share, please go ahead. But yeah, I purchased like my sister's iPad actually, but it is something that's unnecessary for me, but like just because it's there and like yeah, I just bought it, I guess.
so the reason is just because.
The reason is it's nice to have it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess.
So something like
I recent
functionality.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mainly just use my iPad for like entertainment stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, you wanted to say something.
I recently bought a water bottle. I think that's the most recent thing that I bought, but it's
Mm-hmm.
this water bottle and it's for going to the gym and and refilling and reducing plastic waste.
Mm. Did you think about, I don't know, the color of it or
I did, yes.
yeah.
It
And
has to
did
match
was there
my
any
aesthetics.
okay, okay, okay. Great. Yeah. Sorry if you click. Um These are, as Sarah and Intan mentioned, they mentioned some of the reasons why we buy things. It can be because of our need, functionality, our love, the color of it, how we feel towards it, different reasons that can help us to choose or want to buy something. But if you go to the next slide, yeah, please. Um, from a rational choice point of view, as economic agents, which we all are, because we choose to buy stuff, we participate in the economy, actually, buying something because of the color is not rational and is not, let's say, economically optimizing. Let's say economic theory, it tells us that when we consume something or when we buy something, we are always, and we assume this, that we are always rational when we are doing so. And producers, people who sell the stuff, they are also assumed to act rationally. So they create goods and services that best match what they believe consumers want. But actually, in reality, we don't often act like this. We often act very irrational. We have biases, we have emotions, we have habits, and this interferes with our rationality. Like, for example, we believe that, I don't know, if I buy something that's white, a white water bottle, it's gonna make me super excited to the gym. But maybe if you buy a yellow one, it'll also make you super excited, or a blue one, it will also make you super excited. But there's no logical reason behind why this one, in terms of economics, let's say like this, why this one makes more sense. Next. And economics as a whole, we saw that like it's a, let's say, a theoretical point of view of how we can understand us as economic agents. But in economics as a discipline as a whole, it also helps us to measure different things in our life. Like if we look here, this is GDP, or it's called gross domestic product. it measures the total value of all goods and services within a nation. So basically, it helps us to understand the health, the economic health of a country. So, for example, if we have more cars, if we have more food, better healthcare, better software, it means that our economy is bigger and healthier. And here in the graph, what you basically see, there's an uptrending slope. If you see, it means that the GDP globally is increasing. But this is very reductive and very problematic. There are a few reasons why we see this is problematic. Because, for example, number one, GDP only measures economic activity through market transaction. But for example, when there's some, I don't know, something harmful like a natural disaster, like a hurricane that happens, the cost of rebuilding actually contributes to this rise in GDP. However, we didn't take into consideration the destruction that was caused by the disaster, which kind of sets us back in terms of GDP. But what we only measure is this kind of, let's say, rebuilding, construction, insurance payouts, etc. We also see this when we talk about environment, for example. When we mine for minerals, we say that this is increasing GDP because the value of our economy rises from this, from these extracted resources. But through this extraction of resources, we are kind of hurting our environment. There's an environmental destruction, there's a loss of ecosystem, and in the long term, there's a depletion of resources that are not included in this measurement of GDP. So when we look at the graph itself, we see, oh yes, GDP is rising. Our economy is becoming healthier. But when we look deeper, is it really becoming healthier? Or are we actually kind of hiding the problems